it's been working great, and it's a fun unit to have. And what's really great is it's so versatile in all the things it does. The sounds are great. The user groups are really interesting, and you can pull all kinds of great stuff. I mean, people are sampling amps everywhere and kind of putting them up, and they're proud of them. So it's kind of fun to go through them. I mean, there's so many; it's almost daunting. I definitely used it all over the new 8mm record. That was kind of the first real, like, just delve in and kind of go into it, sample some of my own amps, and I ended up with my Blackface Devil amplifier that ended up being kind of the main amp for the whole record. So sampled the old 64 Blackface Deluxe, and it just came out awesome, and so I'm loving it. I used it on practically everything I mixed this year, like when I'd add a guitar part or add something, run a keyboard through it. Like, it just was kind of my go-to amplifier, because it made it so much easier than going out, miking up something and working on a guitar part, and I think, oh geez, I need like a kind of like a rectified heavy distortion guitar here. It's like, oh yeah, now I need a combo amp, like an AC30. It's like perfect. It's like I can just pick the right guitar and the right amp, and the sounds always just slot right into the mix. Yeah, so of course the year started when I first got it. I was working on Marilyn Manson's Born Villain, which we got a Grammy nod for, which is really cool. And that was cool. We ended up using it on some of that, getting some beefing up some guitar tones kind of thing. Worked with Black Veil Brides on the Avengers soundtrack. We did a song called Unbroken that we wrote there, and that was a really interesting use of this in the new paradigm of limited recording budgets and trying to make the most out of everything. It's like we went into that studio, recorded drums, and recorded guitars. Did like our main big tracking, where track the rhythm guitars, and then, of course, we're using a multi-amp setup, with lots of cabinets, microphones. I probably had 3 different amps, 3 different cabinets going with, maybe 6 mics total, plus a room mic maybe, and all running through like an old Neve console, and it was sounding really great. We're really into it. And at the end of the session, I was like, well, let's sample it. So we sampled the amp exactly the way we'd been using it into this. Then we went back and forth between it. Jinx and I were going back and forth between them, going like, holy God, they sound almost exactly the same. It was like kind of crazy. And then we went back here to do vocals, and at that point, Jake, the guitar player, came in, and he wanted to do a couple tweaks to the solo that was done. And it was easy. I just called it up, boom, and it sounded exactly the same. I punched it in. He did a bend differently and did a couple things, and no difference in sound. It was like, I didn't have to go to the other studio, try to get that same sound again. It was there. Boom. It's super easy. And that is probably the greatest thing about this amp. The fact that when you can rent a big studio for a day, lay down kind of basic tracks, sample everything you're doing, and then when you go back to your home studio where you're working on tweaks and stuff, boom, I need to do that part again. Done. It's like, it's amazing. Like, and that is an incredible, I mean, you can save, literally, $1,000 a day, just by having this unit. It pays for itself in a second and a half. A band called Shining from Norway that I just finished mixing their new record. We did an album a couple years ago called Black Jazz that was really well received in Norway, and that was, they're an amazing kind of industrial prog band, and the sounds are crazy. They go from everything from just like a broken distortion pedal straight into Pro Tools, to like large amps and crazy rooms, and he and we were working on some things in the mix or whatever, and it was like, oh man, it really needs this part here to make this bridge between these parts. And it was, he goes, well, something like this. He picked up the guitar, something like this. I'm like, yeah. And so we just plugged in this. You were using what, a rectifier on that part? Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Made a couple tweaks. sounded just like it. Boom, changed the part. And it was like that fast. Like, I mean, literally, we were done in 10 minutes. You know, I mean, it's like that just doesn't happen. You know. Yes, with Shining, that was one of the things we're doing, and that's kind of a new school idea too. Is that he wanted to work in Norway, and he and I had wanted to work on a record together where I was a little more involved in the songwriting and the process of arrangement and stuff. So over Skype, we were just Skyping each other every few days. He'd like say, "Hey, I got this idea for this song," and I'd be like, send it over to me, and I'd take a listen to it. I would go through it, do some edits, and then I'd play it for him, and he'd be sitting here on his on my computer, looking at me, and we'd like go through the edit and come up with ideas and spitball ideas over Skype, and it worked out freaking amazing. And so we ended up getting some really fun stuff and doing some really interesting stuff, and that's how we track drums. Like literally, should I put the mic over here, or should I, and it was just perfect, and that is another thing that's just kind of amazing about the communication possibilities today. You could have never done that before, and it's great that it's over the computer, so we're able to do it and do it face to face. You get the body language, and which is important, especially when you're doing a creative endeavor. Like the body language is super important, and so I think that was great. That was a really fun thing to do. I also worked with a band called Churchill, who are like kind of folk rock group from Denver, Colorado. They work out of the Phrase studio there, and I mean they're just a fantastic band. They're out touring right now, and they're finishing up their new album, which I did an EP with them. The song "Change" is getting airplay all over the specialty and college radio right now. They're doing really, really well. And I did on their record, I would do things like when I got the mix, the stuff to mix for the EP, I would take the bass out, run it through the Kemper to reamp stuff to kind of make it a little beefier, a little more exciting. Vocal patches as well. It's like it just does incredible stuff, and some of the effects are really, really good. And I do love the reverb in it. It's one of those reverbs where you can do the real trick, which is to make the guitars bigger. You just use a really short reverb, and it's kind of the measure of a digital reverb, whether it sounds good when it's short, because usually they kind of metallic-y and awful sounding. This one, make it short, and it just sounds like you're just in a small room, and it's a really decent sounding room. So, love it.